Hey folks, my name is Pravus and welcome to a demo for Endzone 2. You guys might remember the first game. It's a post-apocalyptic city builder that we featured on the channel a couple of times prior. Well, now there is a demo apparently available because the sequel is right around the corner, and I thought it might be fun to jump into this and see how the game is going to be different from its predecessor. Let's go ahead and start up a new game. Now, I'm not going to use tutorials. I've already done a little bit of a test game, so I have some idea what I'm doing, and this is just going to slow me down. Let's begin. Our story begins not with a new city center, but instead a bus with 15 souls aboard. Right now, we are traversing a wasteland, and we are looking for a habitable zone where we will be able to establish a new settlement. First thing you usually do is look for any sort of mountains. There are a number of kind of calderas of sorts, right? Like little areas that are rounded off by mountains, fully surrounded like a volcano mouth. These are habitable zones with various different features. This one has no water or trees, but it does have some clay, swampland, and fertile soil. Terrible starting settling location, not what I'm looking for. We're not going to settle down here. Instead, we're going to keep moving. I've got a certain amount of water aboard my bus. I can afford to keep looking around for a little while. Along the way, we can find some ruins that we could loot in order to get some extra materials that will give us a slight edge up when we eventually do find a good settling location. And there are a lot of ruins to be found out here. Plus, occasionally you'll find little symbols down here to start some expeditions instead, which is a whole nother minigame in and of itself. I'm not worried about that right now, though. We'll come back and we'll explore a lot more in the future. Here we go. Here's another habitable zone. All right, now this one has clay, swampland, and fertile soil, and I already see some water. It's a relatively small location, not phenomenal. I'm going to keep looking, but this is a decent option for us. At least it has the starting resources I care about. Here's another one. Also pretty darn small, but it has a lot of stuff. And now I'm starting to run out of water. Okay, I don't think we have much of a choice. Let's go ahead and set up in this other location we found before. So once we get up to this kind of ramp into the habitable zone, we can construct a new settlement. What this is going to require is that we build a special kind of transportation hub for offloading resources between the bus as it explores the world and our city itself. And this is kind of my only real option, so we're going to place it down right over here. And then where do I want to place my town center? Probably in a good central location, like right over here, I guess. Close to some water, close to some trees, close to some fertile land. This should be fine. All right, so the settlement is now officially built. So from here, our Pathfinder vehicle has now offloaded a bunch of resources, which is how we determine what we start with. We've got some water, some food, some wood, cloth, tools, etc. All important. We can now go ahead and explore some ruins, get more stuff, and keep bringing it back. But let's go back to the actual settlement itself. First thing we're going to need in Twilight Crossing, apparently, I don't care about any of the help text, thank you, is going to be things like water. We need to get ourselves a jetty. So let's go ahead and place something down right here so we'll be able to quickly start extracting a bit of water. This is going to be very familiar to those of you who played things like Endzone 1. This is going to get automatically built up. It doesn't look like there's any actual transportation of resources back and forth. As long as you have the costs up front and the population to build it, it gets done. That might change in the future, we will see. For now, though, that's fine. Let's go ahead and assign, let's say, 3 people to go ahead and start collecting some water. We can see we're going to get about 69 water per minute. Now, that's pretty nice. We're also going to need ourselves a bit of food. A foraging hut would probably be the best way to go. Place it close-ish to this little forested area, I think. Yeah, something like up over here might be the best way to go. I'll place you right here, though this is not an infinite source of food, so that may run out at some point. Let's go ahead and also make sure everything is getting connected by a nice gravel path. Let's see what else we're going to need. I would like to get myself some basic raw materials. That means I need to get things like a wood-cutting lodge so we can chop down some of these trees and get myself a bit of lumber. So I guess I have to place this over here. We can move some of the work areas around later on. That's not a huge deal. Could also place down things like a tree nursery, which would allow us to plant down some additional trees, especially since it's a small region. Might be worth doing this just to make sure we have plenty of wood, but I'll come back to that in a little bit. We're going to need a scrapyard as well. Now, scrapyards obviously are going to gather up some scrap. So I'll place one right over here. There's plenty of scrap to be had with some of these old buildings sitting around. Perfect. And let's let everything get built up. Again, you can see nothing's actually transporting. It's just kind of instantly building. Let's go ahead and assign at least a couple of people to the foraging hut. I'm going to go 3, actually, until I know that I have enough. Fortunately, this game is pretty responsive as far as this little green or red arrow telling you if you have an excess or not. It's very simple in its calculations that way, again, because it doesn't seem like anything actually is transported via roads. That seems to be purely just a visual thing right now. So we can pretty much tell immediately if I have enough water or, maybe we're a little bit behind schedule. Let's go ahead and get ourselves the woodcutting lodge up and running, plus a couple people in the scrapyard, and bada boom, we should find that we'll start producing all the building materials we need at the beginning of the game. Now, we need to get some housing for our people, and this is one of the interesting new changes that was made into the game. We have 3 different types of shelters. And no, it's not just a matter of density or citizen class, instead it has to do with their function. We have economic tents, ecological dwellings, and social dwellings. These different types of things are associated with either the economy, the ecology, or your society. And as long as the right type of housing is placed next to the right type of building, you get a small bonus to the efficiency of that particular structure. So for example, if I were to place this over here, yeah, we get our housing, but no other particular benefit. But if I place it close to my woodcutters, close to my scrapyard, you can see little green check marks saying that the other 2 will become a little bit more efficient. Interesting. Let's place this down right here. I'd also like to get an ecological dwelling. We could place this... Ideally, it would be close to both the water and to the gardening, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen right now because I can't place on top of this clay. I need to save that. So we'll just worry about placing this, like, let's say, down over here or something. Honestly, this is going to be fine because I'm going to have a lot of farming and stuff I want to do down here anyway, so more ecological stuff makes a lot of sense. So once these get built up, you're going to find that we are a little bit more efficient. In fact, every building, as you're going to see down here, has some little pluses or minuses that are telling you what's happening. So for example, linked to the town center gets you 10% more efficiency. Having depots in the vicinity, which your city center does count as, will boost efficiency. And once these houses are built, we're going to find that we get a little bit more as well. So let's let this get built up here, boom. And then, okay, it doesn't actually say that it does that here. It really should, in my opinion, but you can see that the right types of buildings are here, so I think we're actually okay. Anyway, I have no need for a social dwelling right now, but I guess I could place one somewhere just for the heck of it. I mean, maybe at some point I want to have one. Again, we're a little cramped on space, so I actually don't know how I want to do this. You know what, we're just going to leave this alone for the moment. I got 15 people. That's all the houses that I'm going to need, at least to get me started. Other things we could do, well, we could place down a well. If you have a swampy area, which we do, we could place one of these over here. And again, as long as it's close to an economic house, we should actually get a slight benefit. So I could place this as far as over here, and we would still get a little something something. That's nice. Could also consider maybe getting myself a fishery, if we wouldn't mind getting a little bit of extra food. Again, placing this close to an ecological building would make some sense. So, like, let's say right over here. Sure. And then, let's see, we want to get some additional processing buildings. Yeah, we need to get things like tool making. So actually going fishing does require tools in order to operate. So we're going to need to have some sort of a tool worker. I'm a little out of lumber at the moment, so there's not much I can do. We're just going to have to sit back and wait for that to happen. We're good across the board on the things I care about except for housing, so our population's not going to grow. But we'll come back to that in a little bit. For now, let's go ahead and take our bus and start looting some more ruins. When you have nothing else to do, go ahead and just look for freebies. Sometimes there's a lot of logs and stuff sitting around. Sometimes I kind of wish there was a bit of an auto-explore feature for the bus so that I don't have to manage all of this myself, but I mean, like, if you want to have kind of a fun little exploration minigame, it's not so bad. Honestly, in the original game, one of the things I think some people kind of complained about was that expeditions felt like just sort of a button click and then you kind of walked away and let things happen. That is definitely not the case as far as I can tell in Endzone 2, between the looting and for the expeditions themselves. You play a very hands-on role. It's just a little bit mini-game-ish to me, but I mean, like, hey, if that's what you're into, then maybe you're going to be very happy. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring the car back to this transportation garage that we had before. What is it called? The access point. That's what I'm talking about. And then we just go ahead and exchange goods and drop all of this stuff off, as long as the city has some storage. Which in this case it doesn't, but now we're completely full on wood and scrap, which kind of kickstarts the game and moves things along very quickly. Exploration is good. Anyway, now I can place things like tool-making plants, and I want to place this, again, kind of close to my economic housing. Also, placing it close to the other buildings where it is going to be taking resources or dropping them off gives another efficiency boost. So I want to place this within range of the woodcutter and the scrapyard. We could do something similar with, let's say, a weaving mill. Fortunately, there's no easy place to put this next to my existing structure. And I might do some farming over here with some plantations, so maybe it would make sense to go ahead and place another one of my economic houses and stuff over in this general direction. Plus, we could get ourselves a plantation, which I wanted within range of my ecological housing. Unfortunately, it looks like that's not in the cards for me. Boo. Well, it's fine. It doesn't make a huge difference right now. The important thing is we need that manpower to start going up. Let's go ahead and get an area under some cultivation. I'm saying maybe this entire area like so. Go ahead and start planting down whatever fibers you can. And then, yeah, we'll follow this up with a weaving mill over here, and you can see it does have a small efficiency boost by being close to the plantation. So yeah, placement of your buildings close to their relative production chains is more important in Endzone 2 than it was in Endzone 1. And while we wait for our population to grow, let's go ahead and grab the bus and start looking for even more stuff to grab. And there should be plenty, to be honest. I'm really not going to be hurting for resources at the beginning of the game. Scrap is relatively easy to come by, but you're going to need every little bit that you can get at some point, because the scrap is very finite on your existing starting area. So you're going to need to have a supply from outside, at least to get you going in the early game. Now, since we're getting capped out on things like food, water, and so on, one thing we're going to need are some depots. If you go to our logistics, there are material depots, and placing these around the right kinds of buildings, you can see these get highlighted. So we actually do get a small efficiency bonus by placing it over here, which I'll do. Water bonuses can get placed close to your jetties and stuff. I don't think that I can place this close to where I'll have a well. Maybe I can. I'll try placing this over here for now. And then a well-placed food depot could hit a couple of different things, but before I do that, I kind of wish I could get myself a clay pit. I don't remember how big this is, but I need to be able to get this clay. I'll tell you what, one thing we can go ahead and start jumping into is going to be the research system. So if I click down over here, something you're going to see is we are going to be able to start researching new types of buildings. We have things like swamp farms, clay pits and brickworks, and so on. But you may be wondering what these little points are up over here. As we start placing down buildings, like economic buildings, ecological buildings, and so on, we start unlocking new tiers of research available. You have to develop your economy in these 3 different categories to unlock absolutely everything. And then, once you get to that point, some of these researches are going to cost you some resources, but they also need knowledge points. So for a knowledge point to work, that's where expeditions come into play. So let's go looking for an expedition, like this one right over here, for example. I'm going to go ahead and start this expedition, and we're going to play a little mini-game. We're going to zoom in, and this is our explorer. We need to start running around and looking for things, and there are little glowing things that we can right-click on in order to discover something. So for this case, a whole bunch of scrap. I also, apparently if you hit space, it actually quickly highlights everything. I did not know that that was a thing. Okay, because you can't pause time. Ah, got it. So space has to do something. All right, well, the point is, though, go ahead and explore absolutely everything in this world. Sometimes you'll find some good stuff. Maybe, though, as you continue exploring, you'll also find some knowledge points. So we turn on a generator, we got a knowledge point. Now with the generator on, I can open up this door, which lets me get inside of the garage so I can look ahead and grab things from, let's say, the safe. Ah, now see, if I had some tools or some iron tools, we'd be able to pick this open. Right now, I don't have the ability. In a lot of ways, this is similar to the expedition system that already existed in Endzone 1, but instead of kind of passionlessly just dropping people off at a location and then just clicking buttons like, yes, go left, go right, do this, open this, right? Now, you actually control it yourself. So that's kind of an interesting change from the previous game. I can't open this right now, so we're going to go ahead and get back into our bus. I think we can go back here later on to continue the expedition. I just need a few tools. This is where if I were to go back to the town, I don't have to just transfer resources from the bus, I can also get them from the city. So let's say I want to grab 10 regular tools. I've been finding them out in the wild with no problem, so I mean, like, yeah, this is fine. Let's just go ahead and do this. And then start the expedition once again. And now we can open up the safe. We get 40-something. We also found some seeds. Natural latex. Oh, so we can start getting rubber and stuff. Yeah, that's going to be kind of cool. All right, end the expedition. That one's now officially done. Thank you. Then we loot the ruins for everything that we found. What was this, by the way? Decontamination kits. Ah. It's kind of a fun little change. Does it ultimately kind of distract from the main city building aspect of the game? Maybe just a little bit. But not too much, and I think some people are going to enjoy that. Anyway, with those knowledge points, now we can go ahead and start working on a clay pit. So let's research this. It happens instantaneously. We could also spend resources to get myself some bricks, but I need coal for that. For now, though, what I just wanted to find out was how big the clay pit is. Ah, there we go. See, it's huge. Okay. So we want to place this probably over, I guess, here. Yeah, that's fine. And that means that I do have space to go ahead and place down a quick food logistics point, right? Barely, but yes. I don't have enough people to actually build anything right now, but we have 3 children, so we will grow up eventually. In the meantime, back to the wilds, expeditions. So we'll climb up a ladder, we'll go to this crate, we'll find some food and a pallet. All right, this is where there are some little puzzles that you can solve, apparently. Somehow, we've got to get to the other building from here. Maybe if I were to find these planks over here, I can stretch across, create a little bridge. That's exactly what I can do. There we go, and we can find this crate with 18 tools. Thank you very much. We are done. Ah, and now radiation levels are starting to rise. Okay, so this is where we needed things like the cloth. I am going to need to get myself a tailor so we can start getting some activated carbon masks. We're also going to need some coal. That means we need to place down some coal kilns. Now, coal kilns over here are normally going to make your people very unhappy. If you look over these ecological houses, you can see placing this nearby is going to reduce their happiness and health. But if I were to place this next to economic houses, they actually don't care. So it's kind of important to keep in mind that, yeah, actually, certain kinds of houses are totally fine being next to noisy and unhealthy polluting structures. I wish I could place this close to my woodcutters and stuff. I guess I would like to, yeah. The ground type is terrible, though. This darn scrap structure's in the way. I can't do anything with it. Boo! All right, well, I could place it over here, but that's going to make these people unhappy. Ugh. All right. Well, I guess I don't really have a lot of good options here. The Tailor's Workshop is a society structure, though, which means you can place this in a few different places. So if I were to put this over, let's say up over here, plus we can finally get one of those social dwellings, boom, those will all combo very nicely. So right now what I really need is just more people, unfortunately. We're really struggling on that front. I don't have enough water coming in. I don't got a lot of things. We could probably pull back on how many people are fishing. Let's go ahead and send another one over here to the jetty instead. That at least puts me back into the green. And not a lot of time before the toxic rain begins. Let's go ahead and assign someone to the coal kiln and someone to the Tailor's Workshop. That way we can start making some activated carbon masks as soon as I have a bit of coal to work with, which is starting to burn through that wood. So got at least a few carbon masks starting to come in. Let's go ahead and drop off a few that I discovered when I was out and about. Alrighty, so that at least helps a little bit. You can see here the radiation protection levels. Right now, some decontamination kits are going to help. Getting things like gloves and stuff will be helpful later, but I can't worry about that right now. Not a lot of contamination to go around. We can currently see the state of our citizens' health and confidence. These can go down over time, and obviously there are some nasty things that come along with that. Any additional research I'd like to do? Well, we have economic huts, which are basically an upgraded version of the tents. Once you get up to a high enough level, you can do this for all 3 different society types. A swamp farm would be a way of getting some raw materials. Now, what do they mean by raw materials? I don't know. That's the thing. So we'll have to try that a little bit later. I really need to get myself some brickworks, but for that to work, I'm going to need to get some clay extracted, plus have a surplus of coal. Now, the clay mine, I believe, is actually reducing the health and the confidence of houses around it. So, yeah. We may not want to have this running all the time. It's kind of not great. But sue me, all right? I was tight on space. I made do with what I had. Now, one thing I will say about some of these expeditions, there definitely comes a point where it starts to feel like it's just tedious and not especially, difficult. Like, the only puzzles, quote-unquote, I have found so far is you have to interact with a generator or you have to set down some planks. So, it comes to a point where, is this really challenging, or are you just making me kind of sit around and spend a bit of time running around doing something I already know what's going to happen, right? So I think that's one thing the developers are going to have to be careful to balance, is to make sure that this doesn't just become a bunch of tedium. As long as they avoid that, though, this is a thing. That said, some of the expeditions, at the very least, do get very large. So this giant scrapyard, for example, this actually takes advantage of everything you've learned so far. We have to climb up so that we can get to, let's say, some air conditioning units, so we can get down into the building, so that we can then go find the generator and the fuse box, and blah, 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 right? I don't know. I don't want to jump on this too quickly and say that, I don't like it. It's not that I don't like it. It just is definitely different. It feels like the developers are experimenting with some new stuff that they can work on. Which, hey, if developers are willing to try out some new features and mechanics and stuff like that, at least they're not just reskinning the previous game, right? They're trying to find ways to flesh things out, and I can respect that. And you can see, by the way, that the weather is going to be changing and we should be prepared for a drought. All right, that means either stockpile up a ton of water or maybe get the well down for the marsh, which actually I don't even know if the marsh dries up. Maybe it does, but regardless, it wouldn't be a bad idea to go ahead and get this placed. So I wanted to have this somewhat close to the storage, right? Can I fit that close here? Is that an option? Doesn't matter. Well is set up. Get a couple of well tenders, and there we go. That should be a lot of extra water coming in. Now let's see, what else could we be doing? Well, we could go ahead and start trying to refine various different materials. So for example, a recycler would be a way of getting myself some plastic. Just want to place this close by the scrapyard and preferably next to some economic housing, but we can't always get what we want. And now we have an excess of water, food, wood, scrap, plastic, and tools all coming in. Perfect. So now let's get the brickwork set up. We actually are working way more on economy than anything else. Upgrade some depots, vulcanizers, get rubber out of natural latex. Sure. Haven't done much with the society. It does seem like there's not nearly as much to do with that. Almost all buildings appear to be either economic or ecological in nature. What else we got here? I mean, maybe we could place down some sort of a service building. Yeah, a graveyard. There we go. That counts for society reasons. I mean, nobody's dead yet, and I'm kind of hoping to keep it that way, but you gotta be prepared for the future. And with the drought, all right, all the water has dried up, the jetty is useless, and now we're starting to burn through quite a lot of water. We are still getting something out of the well, though, so okay, that answers that question. This does still work. Should be enough to just last me through the drought. It only is going to last for a few more minutes, not too bad. Oh, more research available in economy. Okay, so we could go for iron and iodine mines. Smelters, vehicle workshops. Yeah, you can have multiple people scouting around if you want to. That is an option for us. Economic huts and stuff, the markets. Need a lot of water, need some bricks. Ways of increasing resident satisfaction wouldn't be a bad thing for me right now. Bigger issue is I just need some bricks. Less than 1 per minute. Yep, gonna take a while. Really wish I was close to, well, any coal or clay. Maybe now I can go ahead and research that market. We desperately do need to get some additional society buildings. There's really not a lot you can work with, at least until you get to the ability to have more community buildings down over here, so it's a bit more of a struggle. Oh, hang on, sickness are going on. Right, what do I need for that? Production buildings are just slow and people can die, but I don't think I have any hospitals. Pharmacists are not an option as of yet. So yeah, it's very easy, comparatively, to advance in the economy branch. It's not too hard with ecology if you want to. Society is a bit of a struggle, which I think is kind of interesting. If I can just get a little bit more points, though, we can get ourselves a pharmacist, and I do want that so I can try to curtail the disease. Especially since a lot of my people appear to be dying. Oh, this disease is actually going to get me killed, isn't it? It certainly seems that way. Yep, there are 10 corpses sitting around on the roads. Uh-huh. Wow, I kid you not, that killed off like a third of my population. We had a spike in childbirths to make up for the fact that we suddenly didn't have enough people to go around. That was brutal. A little bit too brutal, honestly. Let's go ahead and research that pharmacy. I can't. I need to get herbs first. Okay. Yeah, so it looks like the game is deliberately designed so you have to get ahead in economy so you can backtrack to things like swamp farms, so you can get to pharmacies, which makes perfect sense. You need to get herbs somehow. And then the pharmacy is its own thing that follows after the pharmacists, right? And then, yeah, we can go ahead and get some huts and stuff. All right, well, I'll go ahead and at least... No, I can't. Ah, darn, these huts are blocked in the demo. I only get the first 2 tiers of tech. No! Apparently, I've gotten to a point where I actually can't produce enough food anymore. Any more foraging huts you could place in an area that would make some sense? Sure, I guess up over here could be good. Well, let's go ahead and unlock the technology for the Swamp Farm, which is just a charming name. Who wants... You know, I got a job over in the Swamp Farm. Well, we'll just go ahead and use this area to farm out a bunch of swamp stuff. There we go. Start making some herbs. 4 per minute is not a lot, but I can work with that. And once we produce a bit more, we'll unlock the pharmacist. Okay, we can now get the pharmacy set up since the pharmacist has produced enough of these vaccines for whatever diseases are on the way. And I cannot actually fit this. Good lord. All right, let's delete some roads and stuff. Yeah, I think one thing that might get a little annoying for some people is just feeling more cramped on space than we were on the original game. Because in small little places like this, it really comes back to bite you, and I hate seeing all this empty space that I'm leaving behind, but that's just me kind of learning as I go. Now, here's the thing, though. That's not really that big of a deal in the sense that it will be expanded, just not necessarily in the same little town, right? This might be one little colony, and we want it to be as self-sufficient as possible for obvious reasons. But what if we can then set up another colony over here, for example? Lots of space to go around. And then set up logistics and trade between them. Now that would be interesting. I mean, frankly, who's to say that I couldn't go ahead and set up another colony if I wanted to? Let's go to this little area over here. Yes, it's still small. I don't care. It's fine. Yeah, there we go. Build new settlements. We'll start with only 10 people. It's not an absolute ton, but it'll do the job. There we go. And just like before, we'll be able to set up some water collection, though having, you know, a drought at the moment may seem like a pretty terrible plan, but, you know, it's probably going to be fine. There's no swamps over here. Oh yeah, this place is absolutely doomed whenever there's a drought. Can we take a look at our transport routes? Yes, we can click on this button over here, and this will be a new route between this point to this point, presumably. Maybe we can say at this location, go ahead and load up on some lumber, since we don't have a lot of tree production in this area, right? And then when you get to this area, go ahead and offload. There we go, you can see the lumber, okay. And then picking up here, I don't know, let's say water, right? We got 2 lakes. Once the drought is over, this is going to be worth a lot. So we can go ahead and unload it. Boom, there you go. And then the only vehicle I've got available is really going to be this bus, but you can see this is why we would want to have a lot of other vehicles in the future. In fact, it actually looks like I can't use this vehicle. Or maybe I can and it's just not showing properly. I'm not too sure. I think I can't use it. Well, no, there he goes. All right, there you go. Yep. The bus is working as a transport vehicle. Okay, cool. So have like 4 or 5 of these little towns. And yeah, you could actually set up some pretty complicated logistics. Is there anything else I'm able to research at all? Yes, the vulcanizer. Everything else appears to be blocked. Darn. So I think we've kind of come to the end of the road as far as what this demo is able to show us, but you get the idea, right? And some of the changes in this are very, very interesting. I think the fact that you actually are incentivized to spread your housing out across many different building types is very interesting, though that does make things complicated with stuff like, let's say, markets and stuff like that, right? So you want to keep things clustered, but spread just enough that you can take full usage of the efficiency bonuses of a bunch of the other industry buildings. So you'll probably end up building the city in like various different quarters, but then you factor in that the maps are a lot smaller here, so you're pretty cramped and maybe you can't make it work the way you want it to. Plus you got the logistics, plus the changes in the expeditions and the ruin exploration. Yeah, there's a lot of changes to be enjoying in this. I think it's less of your classic city builder though, and it's definitely changed its tone a little bit from the previous Endzone game. It's going to be very interesting to see where this game does go in the future. For now, though, I think this is a good place for us to end this video, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this entertaining and informative in some way. I'll include a link in the description down below if you would like to learn more about Endzone. If the demo is still available, you can give it a shot yourself. Otherwise, be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, make sure that notify bell, and I will see you guys next time.